You know those mornings when you wake up, but it feels like you never really arrived? You're up, but not fully here. That's where she was, my 80-year-old aunt, moving through the motions but feeling miles away from herself. Her days had slipped into a slow rhythm of quiet cups of tea, unfinished thoughts, and a kind of tiredness that sleep couldn't fix. No one moment caused it. It just happened, gradually. Energy faded. Joy thinned out. She wasn't sad, but she wasn't fully living either. Then one morning, she changed something small. No announcement, no big plan, just one different choice. Banana with mashed mango. Instead of her usual plain toast, she sliced a banana and mashed it with fresh mango. The texture was soft, the flavor sweet and warm. She spread it gently across the toast and took a slow bite. The combination gave her a stable boost of natural sugars and potassium from the banana, paired with the vitamin-rich tropical energy of mango. But more than that, it gave her a moment, a spark. That combo offered an easy, digestible morning lift. No crash, no heaviness, just clarity and calm. Slice half a banana, mash in a few tablespoons of ripe mango, and spread on whole grain toast. Optionally, sprinkle a dash of cinnamon for added warmth. She started preparing it every morning, slowly, intentionally. It wasn't just breakfast, it was her way of showing up for herself again. Berries with mashed peaches. By the third day, she began reaching for something brighter in the afternoon. Her energy, though better, still dipped after lunch. That's when she tried blueberries and raspberries, mixed with mashed peach. She tossed them in a small bowl, stirred gently, and sat by the window, this time with presence. It was refreshing, tangy, and just sweet enough. The berries offered antioxidants and brain support, while peaches added hydration and subtle calm. Mix a handful of fresh or frozen berries with half a mashed ripe peach. You can enjoy it as is, or add it to plain Greek yogurt for a protein boost. There was a visible lift in her that day. She didn't need caffeine or sugar crashes, just fruit that fueled her naturally and made her feel good. Apple slices with crushed blueberries. Later in the week, she added one more habit: mid-morning apple slices dipped in crushed blueberries. It was her way of filling the gap between breakfast and lunch with something light and energizing. Apples gave her that crisp bite and a touch of sweetness, while crushed blueberries, slightly tart and vibrant, offered polyphenols that supported blood flow and cognition. She began pairing this with her short daily walk around the garden. Slice one apple and mash a small handful of blueberries with a fork. Use the mash as a topping or dip. The simplicity of it made it stick. No prep stress, no fuss, just fruit, a small fork, and a few minutes of peace. She didn't frame it as a diet or a fix. It was just food that made her feel present, and from there everything started to shift. Kiwi and orange slices. It was just after a long week of gray skies, one of those stretches where your body still moves, but your spirit stays in bed. I remember walking into the kitchen and seeing her peel a kiwi, then an orange. No fuss, no plan. She laid the slices on a little saucer and sat by the window. The zing woke my senses right up, she told me with a small smile. There was something about that bite, the brightness of the orange, the tang of the kiwi, that made her lift her chin a little higher that day. The combination brought in vitamin C, yes, but also a rush of something warmer, a signal to her body that it was time to re-engage. Kiwi and oranges are rich in natural antioxidants and immune support, but emotionally, they're bright. They give your tongue a reason to wake up, your senses a reason to check back in, and maybe that's something for you too, because some days aren't heavy, they're just dim, not bad, not tragic, just muted, and something bright on your plate can be the nudge you didn't know you needed. Peel a ripe kiwi, slice it thin, add fresh orange wedges, chill for a few minutes if you like them cold, or eat them room temp, just as she did, while watching the wind move the trees. That little plate became her gentle ritual, not every day, but on the ones that needed light. Dates with apricot slivers evenings, they hit differently when you're older. The clock slows, the house quiets, And sometimes it feels like the world forgets you exist after 6 p.m. Have you felt that? That odd stillness? Not restful, just hollow. She felt it too. And maybe I'm projecting, but I think we all do at times. That stretch after dinner where nothing's really wrong, but nothing feels quite right either. She didn't try to fix it, she just found something small to soften the edge. A medjool date, a few thin apricot slices. Sweet, simple, comforting. It wasn't about filling her stomach, it was about warming a space inside her that felt forgotten. That little pairing became her permission to enjoy the quiet, to sit under the lamp, snack slowly, and let peace settle in. And if you've been feeling that void, my dear, maybe it's not just us. Maybe that space in the evening isn't a problem to solve, but a moment to care for, gently, intentionally. Take a soft date, remove the pit, and tuck in a slice or two of dried apricot. It's not a meal, it's a comfort cue, for your spirit, not just your body. Pineapple cubes with crushed strawberries. It was weeks later when she reached for pineapple without saying a word. She'd had a good morning, puttered in the garden a bit, trimmed the herbs. Then came inside, cut up a few cubes of pineapple, and spooned over some crushed strawberries she had left in a jar. She didn't make it for health. She made it because she wanted to feel something joyful, something tart and sweet and alive. Tart, but good, she said, sitting in her favorite chair. It makes me feel awake. Dice fresh pineapple and mash thawed or ripe strawberries with a fork. Spoon the berries over the cubes and enjoy chilled or fresh. That's the shift I noticed most. Not just her habits, but her choices. Not waiting to feel better, but acting as if joy was already welcome, and maybe that's what changed everything. Oranges with honeyed citrus zest. The first time she walked past the gate again, I almost missed it. She didn't tell me she was planning to. She didn't lace up sneakers or carry water like she used to. She just peeled an orange and sat with it in the sun, and then got up. She told me later, it was the scent, that citrus, it was like a deep breath of courage. That day, she sprinkled a little lemon zest over the orange slices and drizzled the tiniest touch of honey. It gave her something familiar but new. The flavor hit bright and warm, and something shifted in her. Oranges offer natural sugars and vitamin C, good for energy and immunity. But this was about ritual. Starting the morning with something clean and uplifting. Peel an orange, slice it up, and lightly zest a lemon or grapefruit over the top. A tiny swirl of honey is optional, but that brightness, it's the invitation your day may need. She didn't walk far that day, but she walked, and that was the first time in weeks. Pomegranate seeds with mashed raspberries. That walk became a part of her rhythm, and after a few days, she wanted something new, something with a bit more bite. That's when she started scooping pomegranate seeds into a bowl and mashing fresh raspberries to mix in. The texture was odd at first, but she liked it, said it made her feel awake. Focused, strong. Pomegranate seeds are rich in antioxidants and support circulation, good for stamina and heart health. Raspberries add a tartness that wakes up the palate and mind. That was the combo she came back to after each walk. She'd return, breathe a little deeper, and sit down with that small bowl in silence. That walk wasn't far, she told me once, but it was mine, and that sense of ownership, that her steps belonged to her, meant more than the distance ever could. Scoop a few spoonfuls of pomegranate seeds and mash in 4-5 raspberries. Serve chilled or room temp. It's small but mighty, and energizing without being heavy. Pear slices with crushed grapes. Later in the month, she settled into a kind of quiet strength, the kind that hums underneath your day like a soft melody. She sliced a pear, mashed a handful of red grapes, and spread the mix on top like a gentle fruit butter. I asked her what it was for, and she said, "Nothing really, it just makes the mornings feel steady." This combo isn't loud, it's subtle, calming. Pears bring gentle fiber and hydration. Grapes offer natural sweetness and support heart health. But together, they became her quiet anchor. she often hummed while she prepared it. Just little tunes, ones I hadn't heard in years. Slice one ripe pear and mash a few grapes with the back of a spoon. Layer the mash on top. You can eat it cold or at room temp. She paired that plate with humming, and I swear her strength returned in both body and spirit. It wasn't about doing more, it was about feeling capable again, and sometimes that starts with a fruit you love, and a song you thought you'd forgotten. I noticed she wasn't drifting off mid-conversation anymore. Her thoughts didn't wander as much. She didn't repeat herself or lose track of what she was saying. It was like something had come back online in her, not all at once, not loudly, but gradually, like she was returning to the room she'd quietly stepped out of long ago. Apples with mashed cherries. The first time I saw her slice an apple again, she took her time, thin slices, neatly fanned out on a little plate, then she mashed a few cherries and spread them gently over the top. That clean bite felt like clarity washing over me, she said after the first taste. It made sense. Apples are crisp and cooling, grounding, cherries are anti-inflammatory, and known to support cognitive health. But she wasn't quoting health facts. She just felt sharper, more awake. Slice a firm, juicy apple, any kind you like. Mash a handful of fresh or thawed cherries with a fork and spoon over the slices. Pause. Eat slowly. Let the moment be yours. You know that feeling, don't you? When you're physically present but emotionally foggy. It happens to all of us, sweetheart, especially in quiet seasons. But this little act of slicing, layering, tasting, it brought her back into her body and into the moment. Mango with crushed pineapple. A few days later, I caught her on the phone, smiling, laughing, really talking. It had been months since she called anyone just to chat. When I asked her what sparked the call, she pointed to a mango on the counter and said, "You know, we used to grow these." It stopped me. I hadn't thought about the old house in years, but she remembered sun-drenched afternoons in her childhood garden, the mango trees they used to guard like treasure. That memory pulled her into action. She diced a mango, mashed some pineapple, and scooped them into a bowl. It tasted like then, she said, like when everything felt wide open. That tropical sweetness stirred something in her, and that's when she called her sister, not out of obligation, but out of joy. Cube a ripe mango, mash a few tablespoons of pineapple, fresh or canned drained, mix together, and serve chilled. Let the sweetness bring back something soft in you. Sometimes healing doesn't start with a deep conversation. It starts with a taste that reminds you of who you used to be. Dried figs with mashed blueberries. She began saving her quiet moments for the afternoon. A little bowl, a soft chair, no phone, no radio, just herself. She'd take 2 or 3 dried figs, slice them in half, and top them with mashed blueberries. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't trendy, but it grounded her. Fatigue clouds the heart, she told me once. This clears it. Figs are rich in fiber, gently satisfying without heaviness. Blueberries, even mashed, still carry that tart complexity, almost like they insist on being noticed. Have a few dried figs. Mash blueberries with a fork. Layer a bit of mash onto each fig, and enjoy in stillness. No screens, no pressure, just presence. She never rushed through that snack. It became her daily check-in, not with the world, but with herself. And as her clarity deepened, so did her connection to old memories, to small joys, to the people she hadn't spoken to in too long. By now her days didn't look structured or scheduled. There was no checklist, no rigid plan, just rhythm. Some combos she returned to often, others she saved, for when her spirit whispered for something specific. These weren't meals, they were mood markers, quiet acts of care chosen, not because she had to, but because in that moment, they made her feel more like herself. And that's what moved me most. She wasn't following a routine, she was following her needs, and that made all the difference. Pineapple with mashed kiwi. There were mornings when she'd rise with energy already in her, ready to stretch, maybe open the curtains early. But then there were others when the world felt heavy before her feet even touched the floor. That's when this combo came in. Pineapple cubes with mashed kiwi, tart, sweet, and electric, tart and alive. It was my wake-up call, she said one morning, as she blended the two into a simple glass bowl. Pineapple is rich in enzymes that support digestion and reduce inflammation. Kiwi brings vitamin C, fiber, and a bright flavor that jolts the senses awake. This wasn't a daily habit. It was a tool, something she reached for when she needed to shift the energy. When the morning felt sluggish, this was her signal to herself: today still holds life. Dice pineapple, mash kiwi with a fork, and stir together. Eat it chilled if you like. It's not just food, it's a declaration. Avocado with lemon and mashed raspberries. There were also days when she needed grounding, not excitement, not sweetness, just calm, something to settle her breath and anchor her thoughts. She'd mash half an avocado, squeeze in fresh lemon, and fold in a spoonful of mashed raspberries. Creamy, tart, a little unexpected. She'd take one bite, close her eyes, and say softly, "Every bite feels like a thank you to myself." Avocados are rich in healthy fats and stabilize blood sugar, which can help with emotional regulation. Lemon adds clarity. Raspberries bring brightness and gentle antioxidants. This wasn't her go-to every evening. It was her reset button. She didn't reach for it because of hunger, but because she needed a moment to exhale. Mash avocado until smooth, stir in lemon juice, and fold in mashed raspberries. Spread it on toast or eat it with a spoon. Let it be a pause, not a task. The gratitude bowl: bananas, berries, oranges. She didn't always prepare something elaborate. In fact, some of her most meaningful moments came from the simplest dish: a gratitude bowl. She'd fill it with whatever she had: banana slices, a few berries, maybe an orange wedge or two, but the real ingredient: her mindset. From staring out the window to dancing barefoot, fruit bowl in hand, she said with a quiet laugh one afternoon. Each bite, she told me, carried a thought. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for the air. Thank you for today. Start with a banana base. Add any mix of berries, oranges, or whatever you love. But before you eat each bite, name one thing, just one, you're grateful for. She didn't do this every morning, but on the days when she needed a reminder that life was still worth savoring, she turned to this bowl. And she reminded me, and maybe now, I'm reminding you, you don't have to live by a plan. You can live by intention. Your best days might not be behind you. They might be waiting for the next small, caring choice. She didn't transform overnight. She simply listened to her body, her spirit, her needs, and responded with kindness. One fruit, one breath, one pause at a time. That's how she came back to life. And you can too. You're not behind. You're just beginning. Try it, sweetheart. One choice today could change everything. You're worth it.